and the title of Mr. Olympia. His six-time Mr. Olympia, there it is!
Welcome back to Versus, the show that pits bodybuilder versus bodybuilder as part of our RXMuscle Iron Road to the Olympia 2017, brought to you by Yamamoto Nutrition and Protan. I'm Dave Palumbo here with Chris, the technician Aceto, and today's virtual pose down will be against Cedric McMillan, the 2017 Arnold Classic champ, and the reigning six-time Mr. Olympia, Phil Heath. Chris, this is a battle that we've been waiting to see for many years. Cedric versus Phil up on stage. Whether it will happen or not this year, we won't know because we don't know what these guys look like yet, but let's just pretend that it's happening today, and we're going to put up Cedric's best, which was his 2016 Arnold Classic, versus Phil Heath's supposed best, which was the Olympia win from 2016. They're two very unique bodybuilders in the sense that Phil is shorter. He's got a lot of cartoonish round muscle, very, very, very grainy hard. Cedric with the taller bodybuilder, classic lines, the classic poses, more of a full rounder look, maybe not quite as grainy as Phil. So it's kind of hard to compare them, Chris, but this might happen as the last call down at the Olympia this year. We won't know. What's your initial impression right off the bat before we start analyzing pose for pose?
My initial impression is that, of course, Phil has a strong edge in that he has a cartoon-looking body. I mean, he has a lot of fullness that's just exceptional, and he gets, consistently hard. I mean, if you look at pictures of Phil Heath from his first bodybuilding show, he was peeled for like a novice, and he's carried that condition all the way through from his 1 or 2 amateur shows, all the shows that he's done as a pro. And he's obviously added a ton of mass. So, he has a level of density and cartoonish muscle. Combine that with, great conditioning that, that's why he's 6 times,
And let's
say 5 times, 6 times.
Let's face it, while everyone out there, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say they didn't like Cedric's physique. Everyone looks at his physique and says, wow, that's a beautiful looking physique, great muscle, great lines, great presentation. But Cedric's knock has been consistency. So what you just said about Phil, he's probably the most consistent guy out there. And Cedric, of the top elite guys, is probably the least consistent, which makes it very hard to handicap the Olympia, because we don't know which Cedric will going to show up, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, you work with him, and sometimes you don't know which Cedric is going to show up. Obviously, this year he's got a lot of momentum from his win at the Arnold earlier this season with the Academy Award-winning speech he made up on stage with Arnold. I got to think he's pretty confident going into the show. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I mean, he's confident in the way he looks, and he'll be big, that's for sure.
You think Arnold will be there rooting him on?
I don't think Arnold will be there rooting him on, but he's probably rooting for him.
Does Cedric have Arnold's cell phone? Does he text him, up-to-date pictures?
No, I don't think Arnold... They were talking, actually, after the Arnold a little bit. I think Arnold wanted him to come out. Honestly, I think that Arnold wanted him to come out and train with him. I can't... it was either train with him or hang with him or...
What a dummy that he didn't go.
Cedric. He's got. I know. He's like me. I would do the same thing. I blow opportunities like that.
Yeah.
How
could you not go train with Arnold? My God.
Because you know what? Because Cedric's sincere humbleness does not want to. He don't want to. He would feel like he's imposing on Arnold, and he thinks the invitation is a fraudulent one. Just like he probably didn't internalize it and take it for what it was, an invitation to come out and hang with him, and he just didn't blow it off, but didn't follow through on it.
Arnold probably wanted him to come out so that how when Arnold hangs out with Ralph Moeller and with with Franco,
of course he does.
And what's his name? What's the other guy's name they hang out with? They all hang around together. They smoke cigars, they eat, and then they make each other get up and do posing. So Arnold would be like, Cedric, get up and hit my twisting back shot, and then Ralph, get up and hit it now too.
They'd have to beg him to. Plus, Cedric would make, without a doubt, Arnold laugh. That's why he got the invitation. Arnold gave him the invitation not to go out and, I'll give you pointers on your 3/4 back, but he makes Arnold laugh, always.
Actually, Cedric would probably be making Arnold get up and hit poses, if anything, right?
Yeah, of course he would. He'd say, of course he would, just like the Arnold stage when he said,
Arnold, I like the way you hit that pose, but can I just offer a little bit of insight into how you might just, change it a little bit?
Yeah.
All right,
Cedric would say, man, yeah, go ahead.
Let's get to the virtual pose down. We're going to go through pose by pose, and we're going to analyze who we think, wins that pose. Even though this is obviously not how an Olympia is decided, it's about as close as we can do on a virtual pose down.
Yeah.
So we got the front double bicep up there, Chris. Cedric versus Phil. Who do you like?
Cedric.
I have to tell you, you're right. You know why? Because Cedric opens up more in this pose. He's bigger. He's wider than Phil. His waist is smaller than Phil now. While Phil's got a lot of gnarly muscle, I don't think Phil's strongest pose is his front double.
No, and I base it just on the way they look, but also I take into consideration is people forget that Cedric has extinguished mass monsters when he's on. I mean, he beat Kai in the prejudging of the Arnold. He also beat him in the finals in terms of
physique.
The poses. So he has the ability to beat Kai on the front double bicep, which he did. We thought he did. The judges thought he did. You did that little wrap up with Steve Weinberger a couple days after that show, and Steve had him winning the front double bicep as well. So, I have him winning it just looking at the pictures, but I also, not being sure of it, I put it into the context of, I've seen him stand right next to Kai when they both look good, and and Cedric, that was 2 Arnolds ago, and Cedric has the ability to beat Kai. I wouldn't say, for example, Cedric's biceps are as wacky as Kai's, or his legs are as anywhere wacky looking as Kai's, but when you put them next to each other at that show, and that may happen here, Kai looks squatty and short.
Right. Well, Phil isn't that wide, and when you throw your arms up, you expose your waist completely. That's the only pose, if you think about it, Chris, the only pose of all 8 of them where your waist is completely exposed, I guess, except for the ab thigh, of course, too, but so Phil is not as wide, just structurally speaking, and his waist obviously is not as small as it used to be. So this is a vulnerable pose for him. But when we move to the front lat spread now, okay, where Phil's hands are covering, the bottom part of his waist, I still, I see better things happening. Now, this is not a terrifically executed version of the front lat spread for Phil. He looks like he's overflexing a little bit, but who do you like on the front lat?
I think Cedric clearly wins the front lat.
And is that because of just that V taper he creates?
It's the V taper. It's the width. It's Phil's worst pose, I think, or one of his. He doesn't have many quote worst poses, but it's not a good pose for Phil. He can get by with it, but it's not a great pose for him. I mean, I think he would probably tell you that it's not one of his strongest. He does look. He doesn't look narrow in it, but he just doesn't look wide either. There's a big difference between Phil standing in the lineup where he looks tremendous because of the delts and tries versus when he has to get into the front lat spread where, that crazy stance doesn't show up in that shot. Mm-hmm. So while he's tremendously impressive standing relaxed, when he can really sit on the abs, you can't sit on the abs per se on the front lat spread.
Right. You know how Ronnie, when he used to hit the front lat spread, he would almost look like he's doing a most muscular?
You know what the shit he was doing, Ron. Didn't he tell you that?
Yeah. But you remember that? It almost looks like Phil's doing the same thing. It's like he's trying to flex his pecs.
Ronnie had disaster quarter turns to the right, by the way. There was just so much muscle, he didn't care. I'm sure Chad said, don't matter. Just get to the back.
All right, let's move to the side chest pose.
side chest is Phil's bread and butter.
Yeah.
You know, just he puts a lot of people away on the side chest.
And it has a lot to do with his leg, too, from the side. I mean, Cedric doesn't have that feathered, nasty, grainy-looking quad from the side.
No, Phil from the delts, the tricep fullness, the pec fullness, the pec deep striations, which, you know, you don't see a lot of deep chest striations in people.
Right.
You know, even his legs from the side look fantastic in that shot.
They're gnarly. They're gnarly. Sorry. So
this is where Phil always. This is the you know, we expect perfection from Phil, but he starts to like, Phil's here. You know, when he gets into the side chest, and then of course he gets to the next poses, he moves to the back shots.
Yeah. Let's go to back.
You know, he
double.
starts to build a ton of momentum.
Yeah. Let's go to back double bicep, Johnny. Now, on the back double, you know, the waistline doesn't become quite as important for some reason because you don't really see the front oblique. So it kind of, you definitely have a, even when I competed, which I didn't have wide shoulders either, I look better from the back because, you know, my taper is better from behind. And when we see, you went to side tricep. Let's do side tricep, Chris, because Johnny set it up this way.
You know, the traditional side tricep, Phil takes that I know they're both doing in that picture like that little, I call it the little J shot. Phil stole that from Jay.
Yeah.
Or maybe Jay got it from Dorian. I don't know. Dorian used to do that too.
Yeah.
But regardless, when they get into the real side tricep, that's another, you know, blasting shoulder. Phil's got shoulders and tris for days. You know what I mean?
Cedric doesn't really hit the conventional side tricep pose very well. I don't know why. He doesn't like to grasp his hand behind his back. You would think he would because he's got such a small waistline and such great lines. But that's one of the poses I want to almost get up there and say, Cedric, what are you doing? Grab your arm and twist, you know?
Hey, stick to media, man. Stick to media, I tell you.
He hits his pose the way he wants. He doesn't care. He's like Kai in that sense. They're very unconventional the way they
they would never change.
Yeah. All right, now we get the back double bicep. So who do you give the side triceps? Phil?
Phil.
Okay, all right. Back double. We got Phil versus Cedric. Johnny's got a shot. You can see with their arms open right now. And then they're going into the double bi. Who wins this pose?
I would typically, my gut would tell me Phil. But on stage, my gut says Phil, but I would really have to see them next to each other because I think in this case, maybe Cedric's height and width may negate some of Phil's, you know, like density and thickness. My gut goes with Phil, but
Phil to me has way more detail showing because he's harder from behind than Cedric is. And if you know what happens, and you guys have made that mistake before, when Cedric gets too hard from behind, he looks too flat, and then he doesn't have any roundness to his muscles. So
listen, a flat Cedric McMillan might not, you know, last year's Olympia. Why come?
Yeah, he's got to come in full. And
you know, he's better. He's every pound. I told him the other day, every pound up you're better, and every pound down you're worse.
But he still has to be conditioned, obviously. All right, so we give it to Phil, the back double bicep. Now let's go into the back lat spread. Once again, Phil with the crazy glutes and hams and the lower back detail. Who wins the real lat spread in your mind?
Narrow Phil.
Yeah.
Because
Why?
he doesn't look. Because he looks. I say that facetiously because he has no issues with narrowness on the back lat spread.
No.
You know, the way his lower lats are developed, and you know he's got great glutes and hams. Probably some of the best that have been on Olympia stage in a while. You know, they're consistently really. They're
like
they're great. But I say that because I don't think people give Phil credit for the level of glutes and hams that he has. You know me, I'm not a big glutes and hams fan, but that's only when someone only has glutes and hams. I'm like, who cares? Phil's got glutes, hams, back, traps. You know, he's done, his back lat spread. I'm looking at the picture now. You know, he looks tremendous in that shot.
Yeah, no, it's
even though it could be, you know, even though he's not big. Yeah, I mean, he is big, he's huge, but you know what I mean? Even though he's going up against a bigger man here, you know, height and width, you don't really, it's not a factor.
Let's move on to the ab thigh shot. Once again, where Phil is going to have problems because now his waist is exposed. And, Cedric's got that beautiful, small, tiny waist, the long, torso with the abs kind of match up really nice. He's got, for some reason, when Cedric knows how to really pose those quads in front and he puts them down and they just look, so aesthetic. It's a very aesthetic pose for Cedric. Once again, Phil looks like he's hitting a most muscular with his hands behind his head on this shot.
Yeah. Well, Phil has no abs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's his real only knock.
Which is not the case early in his career. Early in his career, he had great abs.
He had great abs. Great abs.
In 2011, when he
they were outstanding.
Crazy.
They were insane.
All right, let's go to the most muscular now. This is obviously a very subjective shot. It's kind of what you like. Cedric hits this shot very unconventionally. Phil, this is his bread and butter shot. Can you really take this one away from the champ?
Look, here's the reason why Phil keeps winning the Olympia. Because he did it to Kai. He did it to Roden. He did it to Kai in 2014. He did the same play 2015, at least at the at the night show. 2016 all the way through. He like I said, on the side chest, side tricep. He pulls ahead, and then he's got the back. And then he's got the knockout most muscular. The knockout most muscular is just, even if he lost a side chest, side tricep shot and still won the back shots, by the time he rolls it around to that cartoonish most muscular,
that's your last impression, too, is the most muscular.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's weird for him because he used to have the craziest front double.
Yeah.
Now it's a little awkward. The front lat spread used to be crazy. It's a little like bunched up now. And that's where I think the criticism comes like, he looked better in 2011, 12, 13 or whatever. But then he moves, to the side chest, side tricep, of course, the back shots, and then he finishes it off, that last impression with the most muscular. He puts people away on the most muscular.
And Cedric's got a good most muscular.
Of course he does. I'm looking at the picture. Of course he does. It's like any bodybuilder, would dream to look like. Phil just looks in that shot like, he's all cartooned out.
Like it's from another planet. Now, I've noticed also, Johnny, go back one shot to the most muscular shot. It looks like Phil might have a hernia, like a little umbilical hernia. I don't know if he got that fixed this past year or not, but it seems like he never had that in the past. You see that little umbilical hernia hanging out there?
Yeah, I've noticed it, yeah.
And judges don't like that because I know that most bodybuilders that have it are told by the judge to get it fixed. I don't know if that was the case with Phil. He might have gotten it fixed over the year. I'm not friends with him. I don't talk to him on a regular basis. I don't know. But that, that is distracting a little bit,
Yeah, I mean, you have to pick on something, I guess.
I mean, because his waistline
I don't like the blue trunks, huh?
His waistline isn't the best body part as it is, so you don't really want to detract your eyes, or distract your eyes, as to say, with the hernia. So we'll see if he fixes that. And, the way I added up, the way we picked, 5 poses went to Phil, 3 to Cedric. You have to put the overall impression in there. And then make a decision who wins this virtual pose down. To me, it looks like, Phil nips Cedric, at least given the condition we see from Cedric from the Arnold and Phil's conditioning from last year.
Yeah. Well, if we count the posing like at the Arnold and the speeches, then we might have to have a new.
Yeah. What if Cedric ever won the Olympia? What can he outdo the Arnold speech?
Of course he could. I mean, that was just a warm-up, dude. Cedric. There's nobody who can talk like Cedric, period.
He'll take the microphone away from Bob Ciccarello and he'll tell him to sit down.
Yeah. Right? He said, hey, you had enough time at that press conference. We're gonna address that too. We're gonna change that up.
Oh my God. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Is there a possibility of a Cedric McMillan, Phil Heath first and second? You think in reality?
Anything can happen. I think there's that possibility. Just what I can tell you is about Cedric is, and I told you this running into the Arnold. He's just going to come in big, dude. Just going to come in big, even bigger than the Arnold. And if he's not conditioned enough, he's not conditioned enough because any mistakes that he's ever made in the past, and those were his, on his own volition. He's only done 2 Olympias.
Right.
He did 2013, which he prepped for about 5 weeks, and he got squashed there and was flat. And then he did last year's show, which I knew coming into the show he was way too flat. Coming into the show because there's this push and pull where Cedric wants to be peeled, but the dark side of him just wants to be huge. And I've always told him, you've never done anything unless you're huge. You know what I mean? Because this is how you can command the stage. So, what do you think? I sent you pictures yesterday, so he's big, right?
Yeah, it's hard to, Cedric makes people look worse when he's next to them. Almost alone because he's so tall. You can see what the potential there, but you can't really get the full gist of Cedric because I think Cedric looks better with other people around because he makes them look inadequate in certain poses. So he's the most exciting guy we got going aside from Big Ramy. I should say the most exciting dark horse that you really haven't heard very much about ever since the victory at the Arnold Classic. So we don't know what we're going to get. You know a little bit more than we do, but you don't know which Cedric's going to show up at the show.
Well, it's Cedric. That's my whole point, Dave. I can tell you. That's why I send you the pictures. If he's 289, he's not showing up at 260. Last year it was 260 on stage. 260.
Right. Not good.
Okay, so he's 283 at the Arnold on stage.
Wow.
So that's 23 pounds up. That's not new muscle. That's just shit that he's burning off. Wanting to, play the wrong game, which means diet your ass off, trying to get striated glutes, and they're never coming in. Period.
Yeah. So
you could send him to any prep guru on earth. You're not going to get striated glutes. It's like some people aren't going to get cross striations in their in their quads.
It's like probably Cedric at 278 would probably be like perfect.
Yeah. He'll be heavier than that too.
You
so
think
maybe
so?
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, this virtual pose down between Cedric and Phil Heath, I believe we give the nod to the champ, the 6-time Mr. Olympia, Phil Heath. I'm Dave Palumbo with Chris Aceto with continuing Olympia coverage for the next 10 days. Stay tuned on our Iron Road to the Olympia 2017, brought to you by Yamamoto Nutrition and Protan. We'll see you next time.